And and according to the power of technology, we should be connecting across the world. It's G from the Academy. I'm here today with Melissa Walker, who some of you might know from our previous chats. She runs a podcast called Raw Relationships, dealing with all aspects of human relationships. And we had a lot of good talks about a lot of things, but now the world is even crazier. So we're going to dive into what's happening on my side of the world, what's happening on her side of the world, and maybe we'll come to some conclusion. Who knows? We'll find out. Where are you right now?
I am in Canada.
Okay, which part of Canada? Because Canada's pretty big, right?
Yeah, I'm on the west side in Alberta. So not quite the west coast, but kind of still in the prairies, but we have mountains and
Mm,
prairies.
yeah, yeah. Are you in like a small town or a city or like a bit of countryside? What's the area like where you're living right now?
I'm in the city
Okay.
right now. It's not a huge city, about 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we just moved here, what was a year ago, what would have been a year in December, so a little bit more than a year and a half, from the country, from an acreage. So it's a big change.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, considering what's happened with the world going upside down, what do you think? It's better to be in the city right now, or better to be outside of the city?
Uh, I think I would rather be outside of the city.
Mm,
Just I'd be able to have chickens and animals, whereas I can't here, even though I've been begging my partner to let me have some chickens, but he's like, we can't do that in town. I'm like, okay, but yeah, no, I'd rather be on the farm, I think, for sure. More
yeah.
secluded would be better.
Yeah, would that be because you've got space to do what you want to do without other people telling you, maybe?
Yeah. And in this city, not much has changed. When I look at pictures of New York and how quiet it is there, it's not like that here. Pretty much everything's still open except for small businesses have had to shut their doors down. But all the big box stores, Walmart. Yesterday, I went to get groceries, and there was, oh, I don't know. It wasn't any different than any other time, except for the arrows on the floor that I didn't pay attention to until somebody kind of gave me a look, and I was like, "Ooh, there's arrows on the floor. This is a one-way aisle." So, other than that, nothing really has changed.
I would love to go down to the local supermarket, grab a trolley, and go the wrong way down one of those aisles. Because that's just me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my that's encompasses my entire approach to life. Everybody must go this way. I'll go no, I'll go this way.
Well,
That's
and it felt that way for me too. I felt very, what is the word I'm looking for? I felt like I was being herded, like I was being it was just weird because when I go to the store, I'm all over the place. I go up and down and back and forward and it just doesn't matter. And I like to wander around. And it was very in order, and that did bother me a lot actually.
yeah. Keep to one side. Go this way. Turn left here. Turn right there. Don't get too close to people because they get nervous.
People are downright crazy. Like I witnessed it yesterday. They see you coming, and it's either I don't wear a mask when I go out. Not at this point. I don't feel I need to. But there's a lot that do wear masks, and the ones in the masks that look at you, it's like you've grown something out of the top of your head. And if they don't do that, they look straight down. There's like no eye contact. There's no. I did see one lady smile at me because I would look at everybody and just give a smile because that's what I like to do. And I wouldn't have been able to see her smile because she had a mask on, but I saw her eyes smile. And in that moment in time, my eyes teared up because I was like, I thought it was interesting to be able to realize she was smiling back at me, but I couldn't see her mouth, like I couldn't see it, but in her eyes, I could see it. So it felt good to me because it kind of worried me a little bit. It seems so, stay away from people, wear a mask so we can't see what you look like. We can't see your expression. I sense energy. So I sense a lot of fear and stuff like that when I come into these places, and it drives me nuts. So it was kind of a good silver lining, I guess, for yesterday's experience.
Yeah, the whole mask thing is very odd. I've seen people driving cars wearing a
Mhm,
mask.
mhm.
That I just find to be odd, right?
Do you know
Just
what I witnessed yesterday in the drive-through? Because I like takeout food. I watched a woman order her food with gloves on in her
hmm
car.
hmm
She ordered her food. She paid on the keypad thing. She touched it all. And then I watched her pull over and unwrap her burger with her gloves on and eat it.
and of course, and of course, she has absolutely no idea that gloves contaminate things more than
That's right.
human hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Even my 6-year-old knows that. Only because
yeah.
I've informed him. But yeah, it's crazy. These people, same with the masks, you wear them in your car, you take them, before you even get back in your car. I know with my gloves, I put them in my trunk because I don't want them in my car. I don't want them anywhere near my personal space. They're
Yep.
contaminated.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I don't I don't even know what to think at this point. I figure everything is an intelligence test. That's what I figure. I figure everything that we encounter, every experience we have is sent to test us, to see if we can learn something from it. And right now, I feel if the news on TV said to people, you have to wear a green frog suit and say ribbit every time you go outside, that people would do that. I came into this block of flats, a small sort of housing complex block of flats, that the other day, and as I came in the door, there were two people on the other side of the door, and they ran backwards and went bang into the wall as I came in. Now, I'd like to think it's because I look kind of intimidating and awesome, and they were just blown away by my presence. But unfortunately, they 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 were responding to the programming, which is that you must give everybody a large amount of space, even though there's too many fucking people on the planet, according to according to the same people, right?
Yeah.
You have to give
Yeah.
everybody even more space now.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it ah
I
ah
know. It's I was talking with a friend the other day, and he was angry. He was angry. And I could tell by his, well, I should say it was through Facebook. I could see his posts and they were angry. And so I messaged him and I said, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can help you with?" And he says, "Can you please call me?" And so I did call him, and I haven't talked to him forever. And when he answered, he's like, "I am losing my mind." He says, "I think I know what's going on. And then something else comes up, and I'm not sure what's going on. And then I don't know what's going on." He's like, "But I feel like I have to save the world. I feel like all of this is on my shoulders. I feel like I need to inform people, but there's nothing I could do because they all think I'm crazy." So, and I said, "You're not alone. I feel the exact same way. But I think there comes a time when we have to just let it be what it is and do what feels good to ourselves." Do you know what I mean? Um, like I know, like you said, there's so much. Is it an agenda? Is there an agenda? Is it for depopulation? Is it for the U.S. politics? Because to me, that sounds a little bit more truthful, is that they're trying to get Donald Trump out, and what a way to crash the economy, even if it's not just the US, it's worldwide. It's even better because it's all Trump's fault. You know. And then
Because one
the
man is
vaccine.
responsible for everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the vaccines, right? They want to vaccine everybody. And I can say right now, me and my kids won't be getting vaccine. That's not going to happen. Not unless it's 10 years down the road and they've proven that it doesn't hurt people.
Yeah, but
Which
what are you going to do when some legislation comes in where they say in order to get whatever basic necessity that you need to get, you
Mhm.
have to have some certificate, but in order to get the certificate, you have to provide some kind of health details, and in order to get the health details, blah blah blah, you
Yeah.
have to get somebody to inject you with some monkey juice, or I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever the hell it is,
God
right?
only knows. Yeah. Well, that's just it. So I don't know. I hope that, and then there's the whole QAnon thing, which, like we talked about before, I don't know that I'd like to think, I mean, it would be great if that's what's going on, and that's great. But even if you, like the rabbit hole, right? You start looking into things and I watched a documentary, Fall Cabal. I think that's what it's called, Fall Cabal,
Mhm.
or Fall of the Cabal or something like that. It's 10-part series. And as I would
Is that a
watch
YouTube? Is
it,
that on a YouTube channel as well?
yeah, it is.
Because somebody sent me a link today to a YouTube channel called, I think it was Fool Cabal or something like that. Or
It might be that one. Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely interesting, but it goes so crazy that your mind just says, I don't know, like that can't be. But she explains in one of them, I can't remember which part, she explains that that's what we do as humans. If we can't fathom something, then we just discredit it as it's not real, it's not right, it's not true, right? And it's more because we just can't understand. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and it falls right into this because we were talking about how AIDS came about.
Mhm.
And she says, well, don't you know, Mel, some guy fucked a monkey and got AIDS. And I'm like, no. She's like, people do that. And I'm like, no. She's like, I hate to tell you, but this happens in real life. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just don't. I can't. I can't. She's like, well, I know you can't, but it happens.
You can't, but they can.
Yeah. So, and my mind just straightly goes to, no, that can't be it. It's got to be something else, right? So I think when our minds do that, it's really hard to take you out of that unless you see it, right? Like I always tell people, I don't believe in aliens because I've never seen one. But I'm not going to discredit you if you saw one, because if you saw it, then it's got to be real, right?
Oh yeah, if someone says I saw Mary on Tuesday, right? Then you got to believe they saw Mary on Tuesday, and
That's right.
until you get any other kind of information, you know.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, you have to trust what people say, and until you know more about the person or the situation. It's really interesting what you said about the if it's not real, if it's not right, if it's not true. From our experiences, we tend to reject it
Yeah.
almost automatically because we can't comprehend it, and we have this sort of isolated mentality where I think for a lot of people as adults, it's just hard to understand the greater scope of things, that people
Hmm.
will realize, if, oh my god, if I am actually powerless against what's happening, like in the interview I did last week with Stephen Donovan. He's saying, well, the average person is competing against people with infinite resources, infinite talent, infinite skills in terms of who they can contact to get to do certain things. So the average person is at a bit of a loss, maybe, is that the word? No, but
Yeah.
disadvantage. That's it. A bit of a
Yeah.
disadvantage in
Yeah.
in that context. And the information that's been thrown out is hard to uh, it's hard to disseminate through. It's hard to discern what to go with, because nine times out of ten something has truth in it, but it's not all true. Just like
Yeah.
I posted a video from, this is crazy. A couple of hours ago, I posted a video of a doctor saying, like, I'm coming online to tell you it's all a hoax, and this is everything about the virus that you're told to believe by the media is rubbish, and it goes into some explanation about it. And so I share it through Facebook with friends, and it's gone within 3 hours. The video is just
Mm.
gone. My friend just sent me a link saying it's gone. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and all I've got is my screenshot of the face. I screenshotted my Facebook post, because if you go
Yeah.
to YouTube, there's nothing there.
It's gone
Absolutely,
there. Yeah.
it it's completely gone.
Yeah. It's
So,
scary, the
so
censorship.
why are they doing that? And then the the head person at blah 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 YouTube came out and
Mhm.
said that they were going. I've got it somewhere in my list of articles recently, that she said that basically almost everything was a conspiracy theory, and they were just going to ban everything left, right, and center because they didn't want to interfere with the mainline narrative, which is just it's just an insane approach to have only one perspective from one side. I mean, at least debate what somebody else wants to talk about. At least present
Whoa. Yeah.
evidence about it. I mean, if it's if it's rubbish, let people decide. Stop treating adults like children, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
This is an insanity where we get to decide what you should read. It's like telling
Mhm.
people, well, you can read page 3 from the newspaper, but not page 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so wild. So there's the lady, the YouTube CEO. I can't pronounce her name. Um, she was in an interview, and it says here she went on to give examples of content that would be a violation of YouTube's policies, including anything that is medically unsubstantiated. What about vaccines, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
so, so people saying like, take vitamin C. This is her example. Take vitamin C is unsubstantiated medical advice. Take turmeric, unsubstantiated medical advice. Um,
Wow.
so those are the examples of things that would be a violation of our policy when it comes to determining what YouTube classes as misinformation. So, uh, you couldn't write a more backwards truth.
Yeah.
You really. She also said that anything that goes against the World Health Organization's recommendation would be a violation.
Go figure. We know who runs who, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. And the World Health Organization were saying, well, there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission of
Hmm.
the.
Yeah. Low risk. Low risk.
Oh
Now
yeah,
it's a pandemic when it should have been a pandemic way before it was. But yeah.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
when you work with numbers, you can just switch them from day to day, and it's perfectly okay. And
Yeah.
you're never held accountable, which is sort of my fear now, is that we have so-called elected representatives, but the elected representatives are making decisions based on the information that's given to them by an establishment which is in place and doesn't change. So you've
Yeah.
got people in the colleges, the universities, the think tanks, the institutes that are sort of lifelong members there, and their whole job depends upon working there. And nobody checks who funds these places. Nobody goes and checks who funds the Royal College in London and the other medical institutes, because when you go and check who funds it, all the pieces of the puzzle begin to fit together, and suddenly you
Yeah.
begin to realize that maybe there is some truth to some kind of agenda going on in the
Yeah.
background. And
Yeah.
these these little infringements, the attempt to control human behavior, is both frightening and fascinating at the same time,
Yeah.
because the mask. I mean,
Mhm.
what's that as symbol? First of all, people are intimidated and afraid because you can't see who the person is,
Yeah.
right? You know, it's like in winter, if someone's got a scarf wrapped around their face and they're waving at you, it's like, who the hell is that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is intimidating. And if you're a criminal, I mean, well, you just go and look at any of the DC or Marvel or those other like series. Is like the bad guys always got that kind of
Yeah.
mask across half their face, right? And
Yeah.
they can hide behind it. You know, it's also psychologically telling people not to talk to each other
I think so, for sure.
because
Yeah.
you can't because sorry, what
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it's it's telling people just shut up, and people are it's uncomfortable.
Hmm.
um it's not a fucking fashion, so people need to get rid of that idea that it's
Yeah.
just because the cool people have been paid to do it, or some fashionable company has decided to make it, then
Yeah.
that that's no reason to follow it. I understand. On the flip side, I understand wearing a mask if you're in a medical establishment or institution or some biological lab somewhere. I
Yeah.
get that. Or, if you're working in some dusty environment and you don't want to breathe in the dust, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
However, outside of that, I aren't you supposed to breathe in and out fresh air? Is it?
Well, I would think so.
I mean, if you just breathing in and out the same air all the time, that can't be
Not
good
good
for
for
your
you.
body.
No. No, it's definitely not. And I think a lot of these, again with the gloves, people are not educated as to how to use the mask and take it off and dispose of it, and they're just cross contaminating anyway. So I think I in my opinion, this day and age, like here, you can get your groceries delivered, you can get your food delivered. If I was that worried that I had to go out, I wouldn't. For me to put a mask on probably won't ever happen. Just because I can't, I guess maybe I think about what other people think about me, but
Mm.
maybe if everyone else was doing it, then I might jump on that ship, but it would have to be everyone else.
Yeah, well, it's first of all, it's about shaming people into doing it. It's about putting pressure on people. And as a friend of mine said the other day, in the past, if someone accused you of killing someone, you would have had to have killed them, right? Now you just walk out your front door and people look at you with daggers, right? Because you're doing your own thing, which is kind of the old way, and you have to get ready for the new normal and the new ways. And
Yeah,
I hate what this is doing to the kids, and it's not being talked
yeah.
about
Hmm.
anywhere at all. What kind of message is this transmitting to the very young generation in society about um, not just about the wrong values in life, just about the complete ineptitude of society to organize society?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't think we're gonna know until they get older. I watched Dr. Phil. I don't know if you know who Dr. Phil is.
It's a
Um,
TV doctor that people listen
yeah,
to for advice.
yeah. His thoughts are that um, years to come, there's going to be issues with PTSD, um, especially from children, because their whole world has been toppled. Like their friends are gone, their teachers are gone, their whole life. And some of these poor kids don't get food at home, or they have abusive parents. Um, and school is the best place for them. Uh, for
Yep.
my personal story, nothing's changed because I homeschool. So nothing's changed other than the fact that we don't go out. But my 6-year-old is a bit obsessed with the coronavirus, and it could have a bit to do with, because he's pretty close to me and I'm constantly, you know me. But he knows the numbers. He knows that people are dying, and he knows his sister told him that it was a scam. And he said, no, sissy, it is not a scam. People are dying from this. But he said to me a few times, he always says, Mom, when this coronavirus shit goes away, that's what he called it. He says, I can't wait to do this, and I can't wait to go to the store, and I can't wait to do that. And even myself, being a super introvert, it's taking a toll on me just being stuck at home all the time. I used to like to go to bingo, old lady bingo, but it was 3 hours away from kids, away from my phone, away from everything, just to kind of sit and do nothing. And I can't do that. So, and that's the one and only thing I like to do by myself. So yeah, I think it takes a toll on people. Like, I can't even imagine if I was social, it would be horrible. My 20-year-old daughter, she called me the other day and she said, I'm like almost at the point of depression. She said, because she's a social creature. She likes to visit her friends. She says, I go to work, I come home, I sit at the wall, stare at the walls. I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere. When I do go places, people look at me funny because I'm out and about. And it's like they don't think I should be there, but they're there. She's like, so I don't understand it. She says it's so confusing and I'm getting depressed. And I said, well, you need to reach out to people, and we can video chat anytime you need to. And she has been, but she's a single 20-year-old girl trying to live her life, and she was enrolled in college for next year, and now she can't do that in the fall because they're saying indefinitely it's not gonna. So now she's kind of like, I had these goals, I had these aspirations, and now I can't do any of them. And that's got to be crushing too for somebody,
Oh, absolutely. The underlying principle is that human beings need contact with other human beings. Not only is
Yeah.
that how we continue the species, it's just how we feel good. We have to be in and around people, and creating a generation, or creating for a generation, this idea that there might be some element of normal in not just not being around other people, but having rules that say it's wrong to be around other people.
Yeah, they want you
scary.
to avoid people. It's
Oh yeah,
ridiculous.
absolutely.
It's
Your your camera,
no,
it's back. You're back.
I'm
Okay.
back. I'm just
Super
gonna
cool.
see if I can
Do,
do.
do, do.
Okay,
Okay. Super cool.
we're,
Yeah,
we're good.
and I'm I'm one of these people who likes to theorize about all the different facets and aspects and possibilities of things. I always say that all possibilities are possible. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty fucking sure that there's people who have islands in the middle of nowhere. They're just having giant parties right now. If the bloody doctors and nurses in the hospitals are not having parties, from what I've seen, I haven't seen videos of them rushing about, worked off their feet, with hundreds of people going in and out of the hospitals, worried about this, worried about that, in some kind of tent war zone scenario. I've seen them hopping and popping and bopping
Yeah.
and rocking to their
Talk. Yeah.
favorite tunes.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember in my job finding time to do that. And my job's
No.
definitely not as important as their job. I get it. You've got to let off steam in some way, but and one side you're told people are dying. This is really serious, but it's okay to dance about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a lot of mixed messaging, and it depends where you're looking for your messaging too. Like, the bias in the media is ridiculous. And I don't watch Canadian news. I follow US news for some weird reason. But I did watch Canadian news the other day, and it was like watching CNN. It was all left-sided. They had nothing. They praised our prime minister, which is liberal. They praised him up, and they talked about how Trump is such a bad this and bad that. And they were like, it was full out, from my belief, would be full out twisting something to a different, to put out a different thing. And then I thought to myself, it's no wonder, because most people don't think outside the box. They kind of just stick to their one news station, whether it's CNN or whatever, and they just believe that's truth. And because that's what we're told. That's, even my mom, she says to me, "Oh, you and your stuff," she says, "that's all you ever do." And I'm like, I'd rather think outside the box than just kind of do what they tell me. Because I've always been that way as a kid. Even in school, I would get kicked out of the class for asking too many questions. So
Yeah, because school is the last place where you should ask questions, right?
yeah. Well, I didn't get my questions answered, so I would piss around and be funny, and then I'd end up sitting outside doing my schoolwork by myself. But
little did you know it was training for the future.
well, that's just, yeah, it is what it is. But I think if the media, I was saying to my partner the other day, I said, what if there was a media that told both sides of the story, and then let people decide, not just liberal and not just progressive, but both. Put them
Normal,
side by side.
perhaps. Normal.
Yeah.
It treated people as adults and said, okay, well, there's an apple and a banana and an orange. They all have different properties and benefits. Pick the one that you like the best, rather than this Pavlovian nonsense of good man, bad man. It's like dog training. Yeah. Bad man, bad man, bad man. Oh, this is the bad man then, I suppose. It hammered down into the brains of people on a daily basis, on an almost hourly basis, where people are subconsciously told, you will be successful if you just repeat what we tell you to repeat. Is good man, bad man, and they hammer it and hammer it and hammer it, and you can understand. And when I look back on my own experiences, I'm actually able to recognize where that was done to me. I don't know if other people can see that as well, but I remember being in high school, and I remember it was the time where Margaret Thatcher was ousted from her position as prime minister in Britain, and everyone was clapping and cheering, and it's like the tyrant has to go because she's done terrible things in society. And it was similar to when she died, the radio stations across the country were playing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead," right? in order to perpetuate this story. Now, whether you like her or don't like the policies, first of all, people got to make their mind up for themselves. But it turns out, when you look back, that she did a lot of things to build up the British economy, to strengthen the economy, and to help it. She made a lot of mistakes as well, like anybody would in her position. Not perfect, but the message that was put, that the media was at that point in time in the past hammering on, especially young people, how bad a person this was and how she had to go, and that there was no other option and no other choice. And that's going back in time. What, we're going 20, 25, more than 25, 30 years. That's going back in time 30 years. That's what they were doing 30 years ago. And it's not any different. It's not any better today. In fact, it's worse.
Well, I think it's worse because there's more information, more outlets for it, right?
Well, yeah, and it's worse because we now get to see these so-called professionals in their jobs having to do their reporting from their own home and completely screwing it up, because because they don't have this giant network of support and lights and camera angles and everything. And the fact is that, unfortunately, probably me or you could do it better, right? It's which
Yeah.
which shows you what, it's all designed that way. It's all presented that way, just to create a certain type of thinking amongst the people, to move an ideology forward. And
Yeah.
there's it's just frustrating, and the messages they put out, like it's almost now like it's not about the virus, it's about the fact that people are the virus. And
Yeah.
they had their environmentalism for a long period of time, where they pumped out this idea that people are destroying the planet, and to a certain extent in certain areas we were, but not
Yeah.
everybody was a bad person, and not everybody was doing the wrong things, and a lot of people were
Yeah.
trying to correct them, right? But but
Yeah.
but here we go again, right? Here we go again. People are bad. You must be wary. You must, and 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 it's selectively enforced, as we have seen recently, where a couple of hot mic situations occurred in the UK and in the US, where in the UK the reporters were just walking around their government meeting as if
Hmm.
everything was a-okay and nothing was happening, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it came out, there was a hot mic on left on in the when the American president was giving his speech the other day, and people were talking to each other saying, you don't need to wear a mask, it's not dangerous at all, don't worry about it, blah blah blah, right? And
Well, I
that got
don't think
pulled
it
from the
is as
internet as well.
dangerous. Yeah,
Sorry.
and I don't think it is as dangerous as they say. I think it is if you have an underlying condition or you're elderly, then I do think it is, just like the flu. And I'm not going to be one of those people that says it's like the flu, but the numbers are proving it's like the flu. It affects as many people as the flu, but we don't shut our houses down for the flu that
Ye-
kills thousands of people a year. And the
yeah.
same people, the elderly, the immunocompromised, the same people, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, well,
So, and go ahead.
sorry to jump in. People are jumping online, and they're saying, "Well, millions of people are dying worldwide." And this happened to me yesterday, and and people are like, millions of people are dying. So I checked the statistics, and it was like 156,000 people, including pre-existing cases, including the old,
Mm,
including false positives, including people with weak immune systems, and
yeah,
which is a very large category. They're just dumping cancer patients into that category now, and people with
yeah,
HIV into that category now, and people with bad diets into that category now, and people with heart disease into that category now, and people with lung problems into that
hmm,
category now. And even the CDC, I posted on my Facebook, the CDC official uh, guidelines are that if somebody dies with uh, if somebody dies with COVID, you have to put that on the death certificate.
yeah,
That's the official guidelines in
yeah,
United States. And there's also doctors in different countries talking about how they're pressured, and it's um,
hmm,
I think specifically Britain and the United States, because not many you're siloed with information now. You can't get a lot of
hmm,
perspectives from the different countries, but the doctors are saying, yes, we're told that we have to class people as this, even though we don't have a test for the people. Yet at the same time, we some people manage to get their cats tested. I don't even,
hmm.
we don't have test kits for people. It's zoos are testing their animals, but we don't have test kits for people. And
Yeah, I
virtual
know.
virtual insanity.
It's ridiculous. It's like, and even I think the numbers, right? Like they say there's, I don't even know what the numbers are at now. I haven't been following it. I think last I seen it was like 3 million infected in the world. Um, you can probably double or triple that number of people that are actually infected. So if you double or triple that number and then divide it by the death rate, it brings you down to a
Goes
point
down.
0. That's
Yeah.
right.
And when they test more people and find out they either have it or don't have it, the death number still goes down.
That's right. So how convenient, if you want to go the conspiracy theory avenue, how convenient not to have any tests if
Oh,
you're trying to put a narrative out there to spark fear into people to doing. But my thought is, what would be the point of that? What do they have to gain by stopping people from working? Because then you're not paying taxes. There's no income tax. Like, so this is where I get a little kind of confused, because I don't know that there's, unless, like I said, the Democrats, this is what I, oh, this is what I always boil down to, is the Democrats when it comes to the election. That's the only thing I can figure it out. And maybe it wasn't meant to kind of, I think it was their last resort because they couldn't impeach him.
it's
Just
it's very.
because of the connections with the World Health Organization, China, all those connections just make sense to me. And Canada would be in on it. Our government's liberal, so Democrat, same thing. He's now, actually, I just watched a live thing, and he's getting ready to censor us Canadians on anything that we post misinformation, and it'll be fines and jail time.
Yeah, I posted the Nobel Prize winning doctor who did the research on HIV. Yeah, came out and said that the analysis of the COVID virus that he's done says that it's man-made. And I posted that, and Facebook fact-checked it as not true.
And did you know one of Facebook's fact checkers works in the Wuhan lab with bats?
Yeah, that
Like,
I know. It's insane.
and I heard something else about Snopes. I can't remember. It was in that documentary. There's something about Snopes as well.
Yeah.
Somebody that does their fact checking, same kind of thing. They're linked with the World Health Organization, I believe.
Oh, they're all tied in together. They're all getting
Yeah.
money in their back pocket. You think you can close all the churches without putting money in the back pockets of the preachers, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about that, because if you've got a real religion, it you you're not afraid to die, right? And
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
put yourself out there and preach anyway. And for God's sake, it's only, even if it's only small congregations or whatever, it's crazy. And then some of the first stories that came out were to make people scared by saying this person went to a church and then infected everybody in the church. And it's
Yeah.
I figure it's everywhere already. Everybody's got it. And if you're going to test everybody, you'll find that their bodies had some kind of immune response to some kind of cold or coronavirus in the past. And however
Yeah.
you test them, because the things are mutating and changing all the time, you're going to test positive. And even if you test negative, they test you again at a certain point in time, you'll probably test positive, just because that's the way that the biology works. So
Yeah.
I figured there's no escape in that sense. But it's definitely designed to be confusing. There's a lot of different rabbit holes that people
Mhm.
can can go down. And
Yeah.
wait, and the the point that you made was very interesting about the economics and the taxes. Yeah, where because it crossed my mind as well. It's like, if the people are not working, then they're not paying. And it's like, here's the other thing: if you're working for the government, like, we'll get into non-essential and non-essential in a minute, right? But if you're working for the government, say you're working like as a doctor or nurse, or you're working in the police or something, or the army or whatever, or you're
Mhm.
working in some local council office, or bloody hell, there's a
Yeah.
mountain of people working there, right? Then you've got to understand that you're paid by the taxpayer, that you're paid
Yeah.
by the companies trading and then giving a certain percentage of their trade for supporting local economies or the government or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So shutting it down and wanting it to be shut down and telling people to stay shut down is cutting off your own financial supply. It's killing
Yeah.
yourself. It's like
Yeah.
cutting off your own blood supply or something.
Yeah.
It,
And like here in Canada, they're giving everybody $2,000 a month. Like I've already gotten $4,000. I'm doing better through this than I was before. It's horrible. But that's how you make it's socialism too, right?
well,
Or
it
what-
is the direct implementation of the universal basic income principle.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I haven't studied it personally, but I've got friends who've studied it, and they're like, it always looks good at the beginning, and it always turns into a nightmare over
Yeah.
time because it slowly encourages people to devalue the concept of being independent and working
Mhm.
and striving through competition to achieve some higher level. People end up sort of taking a step back and saying, well, I guess I'm just satisfied with this and this is all I've got, and so I will
Yeah.
I will stay happy, and not realizing that the end point of that is it's the end point is acquiescence to some kind of dominant authoritarian control that comes in and basically tells you that you have to do whatever,
Mhm.
and over time we can't really trust government, and so that money over time is, they might give you a lot at the beginning, but it's going to end up being devalued. And
Yeah.
I'm always reminded of the German prisoner of war camps, where it said above the gate, "Work makes you free,"
Mhm.
right? And the complete misinterpretation of
Yeah.
that idea, where it's not the government giving you a job
Mhm.
that makes you free, it's your own ability to self-determine your own future
Yeah.
that makes you free. And the twisting of reality, the twisting of language, the oxymoronic principle of social distancing.
Yeah.
To be social is to come together,
Yeah.
and then distance is to be apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know at first I kind of wondered if it wasn't worse than it was. That was my first thought when they were saying stay away from people, because I've never seen anything like that unless somebody's got something really bad. When I worked in the hospital, you had to gown up, and if they were in isolation. So at first I thought maybe they weren't telling us how bad it was to try to stop panic, but now I kind of feel like doesn't quite make sense, because they are still doing it, but for what reason when the numbers are so low, the death rate? I don't know.
A test, as I said earlier, I think everything is a test. I also think that everything comes in stages, and I think this is part one of stage two.
Yeah.
If in modern times, in modern times, and there's going to be a part two because because of the planning, you can see, well, it's going to end, but it's not going to end, and it's going to go away, but it'll come back again, and the next time we'll be ready for it with everything in place. And the
Yeah.
British government just made an announcement that although some things will be open, we don't want people to congregate in places where they might transmit easily, like bars and pubs. So they're saying that the bars and pubs are going to be closed until next year now.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, you check down my Facebook feed for that story. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that's so. All these people, they're like, well, when it gets back to normal, and my response is, it's not fucking going back to normal, you idiot. It's not.
No.
You think we
No.
can?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, depending how long this goes on for, how many people are going to be able to just go back to normal, not being afraid of what is out there. Like now, even myself, I caught myself, I see somebody wearing a mask, I say to myself, I wonder if they're sick. You know what I mean? Like, why would you wear a
Yeah.
mask unless you were, I know what they're probably just trying to protect themselves, but that's my first thought is, are you sick? So I want to stay away from you. And that, it's horrible. It's just horrible to have that feeling towards another human that you don't even know.
Yeah, yeah. And so I like to try to find parallels in modern times and in the past. And this building up of new authorities in society is very interesting for me. The fact that in Britain, on certain days at certain times, now I don't follow the mainstream media, so I try not to be aware of what's going on. Certain days at certain times, you all go outside of your house and you congregate, so even though you shouldn't, and you stand and you clap and you ring bells and
Mhm.
you cheer for your National Health Service. Now,
Yeah.
point I respect the work of doctors when they work, like I respect the work of people when they work. I respect the
Yeah.
work of nurses when they work. I respect the work of dentists when they work. And by the way, all dentists' offices in the entire country of Britain are closed indefinitely.
Yeah, they are here too, except
In
for emergency. They'll do emergency work here, but that's
they,
it.
they can't. They're not allowed even to do emergency work here because I called the
Oh, oh,
dentist about my kids, and the dentist is like, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do.
wow.
In an extreme
It's
emergency, take your child to hospital." Right.
and the hospital's gonna do anything.
Well, they'll stick them on a ventilator, or I don't know, give them a drip feed, or
Yeah.
maybe they'll hang them upside down and shake them. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do there. I
Yeah.
will qualify that by saying that that they might do the right thing, which would be really cool. I did
Yeah.
talk to them, check them, examine them, give them an X-ray or whatever, whatever else they need, right?
Yeah.
But and so the government run down the health system. In the last 10 years in Britain, they've removed more than 50% of the beds that were there for
Yeah.
patients. Yeah, and now they're saying the hospital's overloaded, even though the official NHS statistics are that there's 400% more free beds than usual at this point in time because people are not going to the hospital because they were told not to go, and they're having to lay off hospital workers because there's not enough work there.
Yeah.
And and we're seeing this build up of we have to clap. And I read on Drudge earlier that New York City is planning a parade to support all the health workers, and everyone's going to go out and cheer. And I don't know how they're going to do that in a lockdown situation. It's just going to be bizarre. But
Yeah.
so so I thought this was interesting. So I go back and look at history, and I'm like, okay, well, when the Nazi Party came to power, they must have had alliances and had people, the help of certain people in certain areas. And of course,
Hmm.
one of those areas was the medical profession because of what Germany was doing. It was the scientists
Hmm.
and the doctors and nurses. And large numbers of doctors and nurses were compliant in what the Nazis did before and during the Second World War,
Hmm.
because they were built up to be idolized in society, and
Hmm.
nobody could question what they did.
Right.
If you look at what's happening right now, the parallels are eerily similar. Now,
Yeah.
it might just be that they're parallels. There might not be a connection there at all, but I just find it interesting how it was done in that way before. I can see it happening now, where
Yeah.
if the government do decide to bring forward a policy with some kind of mandatory vaccination, they're going to need these people to administer the vaccination and the people to acquiesce by not challenging the authority of
Yeah.
those people. And
Yeah.
if it continues as it has done, that's where I see it going, where, well, these people know what's best. We have to support them in everything they do. It's dirty work, but somebody's got to do it. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit scary. It's a bit frightening when you think of the vaccines and stuff. I've always questioned them, and not because I've had any adverse effects or anything like that, but it just, in my mind, it just doesn't seem right. We're born a certain way. We don't need to be putting foreign things into our babies.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the vaccine is that we're administering something that we're not 100% sure of, that we don't know about. And
Yeah.
it's the same principle when you get pills from your doctor. Your doctor doesn't really know what's in the pill. The doctors now, they just go onto their big electronic system of database and they put in the data and information, and certain drugs are recommended, and the doctors do know about to a certain level their work, but it's all based on trust, what's in the pill, right? It's all
Yeah.
based on trust, what's in the pill. And now, as a lot of the pills are manufactured in other countries, in other places, and you, right,
Yeah.
it's kind of luck if it is what it says it is and there's not something else in it. And I know that a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies are very stringent about the way they produce things, but they're still not perfect at the end of the day. And so we don't know what's in the pill, we don't know what's in the bottle. We trust that it's going to be okay. It's like if you're getting some IV feed in some hospital, it's like, well, I hope it's all right, right?
Yeah.
And there's all these nightmare stories as well about doctors and nurses in hospital not knowing how the machines work, and unfortunately a large number of deaths occurring. But I know personally people who have who have died mysteriously, questionably in hospital. I know people personally, a number of people personally, that has
Yeah.
happened to, where it very much looked like the wrong medicine was administered to these
Yeah.
people.
Do you know when I had Benjamin, my youngest little guy, there 3 years ago now, after I had him, he was my fourth baby. After I had him, the doctor, it was a different doctor than I've ever had before. The doctor told the nurses to give me this shot in my stomach.
Mhm.
And I'd never had that before. So I said to the doctor, or to the nurse, like, what is that? And she says, well, because you're a smoker, because I smoke cigarettes, because you're a smoker, we want to give you this shot so that you don't get any blood clots. And I was like, okay, trust the doctor, right?
Mm.
Well, about 10 minutes later, I started hemorrhaging, and I
Jesus.
lost I think it was just under 2 liters of blood. I thought I was actually going to die. It was the most horrifying thing that I've ever gone through. And it was all because of that shot. In my mind, they said no. They said it was because they called it my tired uterus. Yeah, I've had 4 kids, so
Right. Like
that's
you're tired little right
yeah.
finger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what they called it. But to me, after having 3 children, perfectly good, normal, healthy delivery, everything was good. But that was the one difference. So what did they give me? Was it the right thing in the bottle?
Oh
Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, exactly. And well, people who work behind the scenes in hospitals will tell you that a lot of bad things happen that never get out.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
wrong admit. At least, and like I don't even have much contact with hospitals. I try not to, and
yeah,
I've got at least 100 stories of the wrong medicine being
yeah,
administered to the wrong patient in the hospital. Whether it's, and it can just be an honest mistake because people are tired, but it's
yeah.
still a serious mistake uh, at the end of the
Still a
day.
mistake nonetheless, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I and the whole situation there is kind of crazy. Anyway, I had a um, uh, partner years ago who worked as a doctor, and she used to do these like 24-hour shifts in the hospital.
Mm.
And how can you even how can anybody function like that? I mean, even like truck drivers have to stop every period of time and
Yeah.
and take a break. And she'd end up like passing out on like couch in her little office there and be fast asleep, and then the bell would ring, and then she'd have to get up and go out and see what the problem was. And
Half asleep.
yeah, exactly. And it
Yeah.
was it was a crazy existence. It was so I've got respect for those people, but they they tend to get used and abused in a lot of ways, as well. Of course, it depends. It's very different from country to country, um,
Yeah.
as well, how the system works. But it's it's frightening that we could be allowing ourselves to sort of sleepwalk automatically into believing that everything is going to be okay, especially if people haven't understood history, they haven't studied where the first hospitals came from, that they were essentially charity organizations, really. And then when community hospitals were built, they were built by foundations, but the foundations then persuaded government to come in and invest money in them, and the foundations then took a step back, and that's how the hospitals became government funded but still kind of foundation controlled. And then of course there was a big push towards um, pharmaceutical drugs, which are essentially poisons a lot of the time, and a big push away from the naturopathic medicine, which we still see the same problems today, where doctors recommend the pills, but they don't recommend the tea,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
something I learned when I was out in Eastern Europe for years, was
Yeah.
that when I went to a chemist, the chemist was full of tea, and all
Hmm.
these different kinds of teas had were remedies for certain things. And you'd walk into a chemist in Britain, and there'd be like no tea, right? They would
Yeah.
just be all little um, packages and creams and things from different companies that you sort of had to trust that they were gonna help you or solve your problem. So we have to think carefully, practically, logically, because there is an element of the vaccine argument which is practical, but how do you know it's clean,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you don't. I don't think you do. Um, my oldest son, Bradley, he's 6. He's the one that had the seizure. We see a specialist, and I asked him about vaccines.
Mhm.
And you know what he told me is, he said, for Bradley, the only vaccine I would give him is the meningitis vaccine. And the reason for that is because if he has another seizure, they will test him for meningitis. So if he has the vaccine, they won't test him. And he told me straight from his mouth that he does not vaccinate his children. And he's a pediatric specialist.
Mm.
So when I heard that, I looked at him and I just kind of went, wow. Because my
Yeah.
other doctor, the doctor that delivered him, she's from South Africa, I think. She
Mhm.
told me, vaccinate your kids. I'm from Africa. You got to vaccinate your kids. This is important. And I believed her,
Mm.
because I liked her. She's a good woman. And we kind of built a relationship. So I thought, she has no reason to lie to me. But at the same time, what if what if that's her truth? That doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's the truth. She is not God. She's
Yeah.
just a doctor, right? So to hear it from this doctor, to say that, I was like, kind of, then I was like, okay, maybe there is more to question here. So I haven't given the boys vaccinations, and I probably won't, um, unless, say there's a big measles outbreak, then I might. Um, but at this point, I just leave it alone.
Well, I think people should read the literature and educate before they vaccinate.
Hmm.
Know what you're getting into, know what you're doing, know the risks involved.
Yeah,
Read read the insert.
yeah.
Um,
And here in Canada, we're allowed to pick and choose, so you don't have to just get them all. You can pick which ones you want and which ones you don't want, so that's good. I mean, we have that freedom, which is awesome. I know there's other places where the babies just get them when they're born. We're not here, so that's a
Yeah,
good thing for us.
yeah. Yeah, it's a choice. I mean, the fact that we have, the fact that we're, oh, I'm so happy I have a choice, but choice should just be normal and exist
You'd
anyway.
think. Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah, yeah, and the ridiculousness of, well, if your kids are vaccinated, then why are you worried about my kids not being vaccinated? Because
Mm.
your kids are protected, right?
Well, they
Right?
should be. Yeah. Do you know, I lost a friend on Facebook because she put this ridiculous post about, oh, now all you anti-vaxxers. I don't consider myself an anti-vaxxer. I consider myself that I choose not to vaccinate my children. What you choose to do with your children is your choice. I'm not going to try to shove anything down anybody's throat, but this is my opinion. So she put on there, it was this stupid post saying, uh, dear anti-vaxxers, look at this pandemic and tell me why you don't choose to, it's your fault that we have a pandemic. And I was
All
like,
right.
what? And I responded to it. I said, this post is ridiculous. Like, this couldn't be anything like, and I don't usually say anything. And she went on to tell me how she hopes my family's healthy through this epidemic because of my bad choices. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of
wow.
it has the undertones of a threat, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
well,
that's how
I
I took
hope
it.
you, I hope you sleep okay at night.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean,
Yeah.
what you're basically saying is you think I'm evil and that I shouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, even watching like all the protests in the States, these people are protesting, they want to go back to work. And then they're saying it's on Trump's head, that Trump made them do it because he's saying liberate yourself. Well,
Uh,
that's what he's all about, liberation, right? And
right.
he wants the country to get back to work too. So, but they're saying that because what he said made all these thousands of people go out, and now all these people, I seen this one post, all you people that are out there protesting shouldn't get medical attention. If you get sick, you should just be left to die. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
people say.
yeah. The things people say without thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because
without thinking, like,
because Trump is the little voice in people's head telling them what to
yeah,
do.
yeah, really.
Yeah, and it is
Yeah.
as again as Stephen pointed out in the interview I did last week. He says it's social Darwinism. It's
Hmm.
the difference between essential and non-essential is the same difference between the fit and the unfit. You
Hmm.
know, we
Yeah.
we we the fit are allowed because we're fit and we say that we are, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you are non-essential because we say that you are non-essential. I mean, the
Yeah.
idea that any worker in any business, I mean, I'm I'm a hypercritical person, right? But I would never in my life describe any worker, anybody doing a job, especially in the
Hmm.
independent and private sector, as
Hmm.
non-essential,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen people push pieces of paper around a government desk and, you know, stamp
Yeah.
here and send it over there and then send it back and then send it back over there again and take a 3 hour lunch break and whatever. Where
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, I wonder why this office exists, but I definitely wouldn't. I still wouldn't describe these people as non-essential because I know they got families to feed.
Yeah, well, that's just it. And
Right.
same as going out and getting things, if I go to the store to get potting soil and a freaking plant, it doesn't matter what you think if it's not bred. I had a guy yesterday when I walked out, my cart was full because I try to stock up so I don't have to go out every week. So I spent 250 some dollars on groceries. And when I walked out, I got looks from people because my cart was full. And it's like, seriously. Well, I'm not a hoarder. That's the same with these
Mm,
people. Oh, they're because of them hoarders. They hoarded toilet paper. No, they were
mm.
prepared. You were not. So,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
they were prepared, and you can add like the number of people who prepare is minimal,
Hmm.
right? So it's not
Hmm.
going to have that great an effect on the supply chain because you're probably already prepared anyway, so you're not going to
Yeah,
worry. But what
that's right.
happens when there's a potential threat of a potential problem or a limitation in the supply of certain things? What usually happens is that going on in the background, government steps in and buys things, right?
Hmm.
So that they've got their reserves, and
Yeah,
then that creates a limited number of products for everybody else. Yeah,
yeah.
government steps in first and says, okay, we need this to make sure that our system can run. And usually, sometimes they just even take it because that's what governments do. And
Yeah.
then they turn around and blame people. It's like, oh, it's those people who are getting prepared that are the problem. Well, no, it's not really.
Hmm.
I mean, it's
No.
when is I'm still waiting for that very rare occasion when somebody in government gets up and said, "Well, we made a mistake, right? And don't crucify me for it,
Hmm.
right? Because we're only
Yeah.
human. But let's just let's just say, look, here's the information and here's the statistic." And Trump has played the most amazing game recently, where what he's done is as far as I can see, is take everyone who's made all the decisions and make them stand at the front with a microphone.
Hmm.
And he's just stood back. Yeah. And he's given everyone the microphone. And they've all crucified themselves, right? Because they've all just
Hmm.
said the most ridiculous things that you can
Yeah.
possibly imagine. Well, we're only, the tests are only 50% accurate. And well, yes, we said this before, but now we're revising our numbers based on the new information. And no,
Mm.
we don't know when we've started it, but we don't know when it's going to end. But you can trust us to end it at some point in time anyway. Well, that's never turned out bad in the past, has it? Right?
Yeah. Well, that's just it. And he keeps saying things are going to be fine. We're going to get back going. He's very optimistic. And that tells me that it's not as bad as what they're saying. And he knows. I feel like he knows that. It's just he has to, like you said, let them crucify themselves because that's what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
exactly what they're doing.
Well, it's Trump has given the people the opportunity to decide. I mean, it was a genius
Hmm.
political move of his to allow the governors
Hmm.
to decide whether or not to open their states or close
Hmm.
their states.
Some are opening like as early as Friday.
Right, and we
Yeah.
we and then you're going to have a lot of interesting sort of global geopolitics there. We'll get to see what happens. One of the possible scenarios is that we're not getting all the information about
Hmm.
everything that's going on. Um, and I still have in because there was a post that and I just lost all my information because my computer crashed, right? So I had all the files. I had like I had like my police folder. This is what the police are doing. I had my doctors folder. This is what the doctors are doing, and I had all the information. That I was going to do a series of presentations. I'll get the information back somehow. I should have kept it
Yeah.
on Dropbox instead of my computer, but I got a bit caught out this time. And so one of the folders that I had was biowarfare. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's actually it's a real thing. It's a
Hmm.
it's countries have gone to war with each other in uh, using biology, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we've been through hot wars, cold wars. Now I think we're partly in uh, invisible wars. The first element of invisible war was the mystical terrorist, but that didn't sell very well to people because they knew
Hmm.
there was nobody hiding in the closet or under the
Yeah.
bed.
The
So now,
invisible enemy.
yeah, yeah. So now we've got the what do they call it? quiet
The,
weapons for silent wars or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's actually a paper or document that was written at some point in time. Anyway, um, so I had this folder of this information, and it's really, if you go back through the history of the 20th century and you look carefully, it hasn't really stopped. Since we started
Yeah.
messing around with biology, people have been seeing
Hmm.
what it does, or releasing it on purpose or as a mistake or whatever. And even in the last 20 years in Britain,
Hmm.
various viruses have traveled across the country in various ways,
Yeah.
and caused problems. So it's always going on, and I think that's an element that people should keep in the back of their mind as well. That
Yeah.
it's not against it's not rallying against history to think that there might be something like that happening. And why
Hmm.
the hell do governments have biology labs? They have bioweapons labs. They have
Yeah.
study papers on the positives and negatives of biowarfare. I mean,
Yeah. It just, yeah, I didn't know any of that until just recently when all this came out and I learned about it. And I'm like, how does that make any sense? Like, what is the point of that? It's the same as trying to get North Korea to get rid of their nuclear weapons. Why does anyone have nuclear weapons? It's
yeah.
ridiculous, right?
Well, it is. I mean, you can't. The problem is you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right?
No,
So
it's too late. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the danger there. And
Yeah.
the positive argument for nuclear weapons is we'd never use them because we'd all kill each other.
Yeah,
But
we don't need
are
to.
are are, are we that far down the road, right?
Right.
Are we do we think we're that smart that we wouldn't? It, and look, the plot line of half of the good films for the last 20 years has been some mysterious nuclear weapon in some suitcase somewhere, and we're trying
Yeah.
to save the world in a, I don't know, in some
Yeah.
James Bond crossed with MacGyver action hero
Yeah.
fantasy. I don't know, something like
Yeah.
that.
No, it's
Uh,
crazy.
it's all madness. It's all madness. So what's it like for you in your family, in your family situation now? Is it in Canada, you have to like stay in and around your home, or you can go out when you want, or what's going on?
No, pretty much everything's the same. They shut the parks down.
Okay.
The kids can't go to the play on the playground equipment, but they could play in the green space. We have a good sized yard. The boys have a trampoline, a basketball net. They don't need. They're just like me. They're a bit socially fine to be by themselves. So nothing has changed here. But the parks are closed. All the community centers, like the gyms and the swimming pools, all that has closed. But we didn't ever do any of that anyway, so that doesn't affect us. I have a thing about swimming pools. I think they're disgusting. I'd rather go to the lake or the ocean to swim.
Yeah, I can respect that.
Yeah, but other than that, we can still go. You can still go on the trails, like by the river. They did shut down camping, I heard. You're not allowed to go camping. They shut down the provincial parks. Yeah, which makes absolutely no sense to me, but I guess maybe because they can't watch you if you're there. I don't know. Not quite sure. I haven't looked into exactly what.
What kind of absurd rule would they have to create, or excuse would they have to come up with to say that you can't you can't go camping? I don't
Well,
know.
you can
You
go
might.
camping, but they shut down the campgrounds. So you'd have to camp
So you can't.
somewhere else. Yeah, you can't camp in a communal place, but you could pull your tent out on your front grass and tent and camp if you wanted
You
to.
could try. You could try that. You could
Which
try.
the boys, like in our backyard, the boys do that with
Mm.
my hubby. That's what they do. They camp in the backyard because it's easy, and when the kids get scared at night, they can come in. Works out good. Or they'll camp
Yeah.
right on the trampoline. It's but other than that, yeah, hairdressers are closed, dentists are closed. Um, I've had to learn how to cut hair with the boys, which my poor 6-year-old has got. He's rocking a mullet from like the 80s, but he loves it, so that's
Ah,
all that matters. Yeah.
bring back
Um,
the 80s. Bring back the 80s. That's
yeah.
fine. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah. My other little guy, I want to give him a mohawk because he's a bit of a, he's just a, he's defiant. Let's just put it that way. So I feel like I keep telling him, I'm like, you get a mohawk. And then I said to him, I said, you'd be badass. He goes, a badass? But yeah, he won't let me cut his hair. So he's smart. He's seen what I've done to his brother. He doesn't want anything to do with that.
Oh, cool. Cool.
But other than that, no, everything's pretty much the same. It's no churches, no, but I didn't go to church before either. I got my I've always been kind of stuck in the house and introverted as it is. So for me, the only thing that my bingo is taken away once every couple of weeks when I have had enough with the house. And other than that, I think the shopping malls are closed probably, but I haven't gone to check. Restaurants are closed, but you can get like order in, get delivery.
Which makes no sense either, because the food has to be prepared by people in the same
Yeah,
place. So
yeah, we disinfect everything. That's just a practice we've kind of put in just to be doubly, I don't know, just in case to protect ourselves. So with the groceries, we just spray it all down and leave out as long as we can or whatever. With the food, I just plop it onto a plate and hope for the best. That's about it.
oh, so it's crazy that across the board of countries worldwide, that similar rules were able to be implemented so quickly. And
Yeah.
I like to think that each country is separate and each country is different, but I'm seeing more and more that there seems to be a common agenda across all the countries. I think it's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see how this plays out. I think a lot of us are looking to America right now for leadership to see what happens in terms of there. I don't see much. The thing is, I don't see much leadership elsewhere right now.
No, yeah, it's
As
true. It's true.
pe- People seem to be following, and that's with the rise of the World Health Organization being this
Well,
sort of.
Sweden, maybe. You could maybe say Sweden is, I don't know, just because they're doing things a lot differently than anywhere else. And their result is pretty much the same from what I can tell.
Yeah, that's an odd. I don't. An odd bean. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah.
It's it's a very peculiar situation. I tend to think that in terms of globalist ideas, that they sort of always leave one avenue open, right? They always sort of, well, we'll have this. We'll allow one thing or one element to be different, the same way that a small number of people are allowed in certain countries are allowed to homeschool their kids and stuff like that. I think
Right.
have sort
Yeah.
of an experimental country. There's definitely not a lot of information in the news about that. That was another presentation I wanted to do was Sweden, but my folder of stuff is gone. But I'll get around to compiling it all. Hopefully it's I just have to look back through my Facebook feed and go, oh my god, I posted that. Oh Jesus. Right, right. So have we got any solutions? Are there any solutions to um, that we can put out there to help
No,
people get.
I don't know that there's any solutions, but I think people need to question everything. If it doesn't feel good within yourself, then you need to question it.
Mm.
And if you can't find answers, then reach out to other people and just talk about it. That's all I can say. I think that's the main thing, is just to really reach out to other people, like-minded people that, instead of, like, I know for myself, I have to be careful who I talk to, because there are certain people that think I got the tinfoil hat sitting on top of my head. So I tend to not talk to them kind of people, because then they just confuse me more or make me feel bad. So try to stick to people that are kind of like-minded and not too crazy either. Do you know what I mean? Because there is kind of the ones that are a little bit, that do have the tinfoil hat on. So kind of trying
Yeah.
to find somebody that's in the middle ground.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's yeah. I'm open to listen to all perspectives, but even you, I have my limits as well, right? There's people
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't even know if that's real or not, or
Yeah.
just bizarre. There's people with these crazy ideas right now saying, well, they're keeping us all inside because they don't want us to go out at night, because if we go out at night and look up, we'll see the spaceships or something weird going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's way beyond my ability to even comprehend something like
Yeah.
that. I stick to what I know, what I do, what I can prove as much as
Yeah.
possible, and that's my domain. It's
Yeah.
my tiny little domain. So I think
And I
that
think just like how it sits with you. I don't know if you get that feeling, but something that sits with me good or it sits with me bad. And I'm like,
yeah,
yucky feeling. And I
yeah.
usually just tend to stay away from that, whether it be a person or information.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I
didn't it?
read everything, but
Yeah.
I'll get halfway down and then it sounds a little bit funny and I'll just stop reading it. I don't feel any need to keep going. It's like, nah, I don't think so. Move on.
Yeah. Oh, was it you that posted the can that post about, if can't you feel that something is not right inside of you somewhere? Somebody posted like a little meme recently. Thought it might have been you, maybe somebody else. And it was a little meme that was like, ask yourself, is this okay? Right? Ask yourself,
That should have been me.
yeah, and I think that's a good thing. People need to not just question what's happening around about them, but ask themselves, is this
Hmm.
okay? Am I all right with this? Does this,
Yeah.
as you said, does it sit right with me? And I think that um, if people come to their own conclusions that way, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll navigate away to the other side and
Yeah.
and get out there. Right.
Yeah.
Is there a way where people can find your work online? Some of the Raw Relationships podcasts?
I have my Anchor podcast, and I guess we'll have to put that in the comments. I'll send you the link for that one because I don't know it offhand. I think it's just Raw Relationships,
Mhm.
anchor.fm/Raw Relationships, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. And then I do have a Facebook page for Raw Relationships as well.
Okay, that's super
Yeah.
cool. That's super cool. So people out there, if you want to connect with Melissa and Raw Relationships and learn more about relationships, because I know that through the history of the podcast, there's quite a few interesting and informative interviews there. So if people want to go and check that out, that's really cool. Thank you so much for finding time today. It's evening here. It's like afternoon where you are, I think, over there.
Yeah.
Thank you for finding time today to have this chat. I hope that we'll be able to
You're welcome.
connect again soon at some point in time. I know that you're going to be observing what's happening over there, and I'm going to be observing what's happening here. And as we go through this experience of lockdown and the virus and everything that's connected with it, it's good for people to share their opinions, I think, about that. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for finding time today. Um,
You're welcome.
that's it. If anybody out there wants to get in touch with me, it's the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. There's stuff all over the place, blah, 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 whatever. If people want to connect with me, that's great. If they don't, I don't care, whatever, right? That's it. Do it, done. Thank you very much for tuning in. All I have to do is find the button to end this somewhere on my desktop here, hopefully. There.